You're listening to Sensitive Changemakers. This podcast is created for highly sensitive leaders and is designed to support you to embrace your strengths and gifts so you can feel more confident in your own mind and body and live a life with intention, purpose, and more importantly, joy. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP who has a BA Honours degree in education, is a fully trained and qualified professional coach and NLP practitioner, and has over 17 years of teaching and over 3 years of coaching experience supporting highly sensitive people. I believe that you can do anything you want to in this life, but that sometimes the path forward becomes muddy with self-doubt and fear of failure. It's my mission to help sensitive thought leaders peel away the self-doubt and stories holding them back, for them to see their own beauty and strength so they can increase self-confidence and self-trust through thought and embodiment work, and see their path clearly and move forward confidently, living their life with intention and purpose. I would love for you to come and join us. Hello, I hope you are well. I hope you are having a fantastic week or a fantastic start to the week, depending on when you are tuning in. It has been a wonderful week here. The sun has been out. It actually feels like it's coming up to summer. I know typically British always bringing in the weather, but I think the amount of rain that we've had this year, it's so nice to see the sun. So I am just incredibly grateful to you for listening in. I know that you could be doing so many different things with your time. And so I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much. Before we delve into today's topic, I do want to let you know about a masterclass that is coming up. It's a free masterclass. It's going to be on Tuesday, the 4th of June. This is the first time I've done one in a while. I used to do free masterclasses every single week in my Facebook group and then do like a big one every month. I've now taken that down due to just kind of honouring my sensitivities myself and my own energy levels. I've taken that down to once a month, and this is the first one I've done in a while. So it's all going to be about people-pleasing tendencies. It's going to be about looking at the correlation between people-pleasing and being highly sensitive. It's going to be looking at why that's there, kind of the understanding behind that. It's going to be looking at why it's so difficult for people who are highly sensitive to actually put boundaries in place and also look at their own wants and desires without that guilt and without that shame. And so we're going to be kind of breaking that down. We're going to be looking at how to establish nurturing boundaries rather than harsh boundaries, which can feel quite shocking to the system of a highly sensitive individual. And so if that feels like something you're interested in, I'll put the link in the show notes. It'd be lovely to have you there. And as a thank you, I will be giving away a free session during that masterclass in supporting you in your own journey around people-pleasing tendencies and boundary setting. So that is for you. If that resonates with you, it'd be lovely to have you there. I am going to shift slightly to the topic that I really want to talk about today, which is an interesting one because this came about from a conversation I've had with various different people, and I kind of saw a pattern and I thought, interesting. I'll delve into this a little bit deeper, as I do, because as highly sensitive people, we do like to do some research and we do like to go deep. And so this conversation that I was having was around how I've always considered myself, and the person I was talking to was the same, to be quite negative, pessimistic, always looking on the downside. I think for a long time, maybe not when I was a little kid, but I definitely think going into my teens, 20s, early 30s, I definitely had a huge negativity bias, which I know all of us do. All humans have a negative bias, but I always felt like I was on the more extreme scale of that. And I know we spoke in the last podcast episode, if you tuned into that one, we spoke about how I grew up in a family where my dad was very much, I don't like to get excited. It never works out how I want it to. When's the other shoe going to drop? So I had that as well. And I think with my kind of just natural sensitivities as well, combined with the anxiety that I was feeling, just meant that I lived a lot of my life looking for the bad, looking for the negative. And the person that I was talking to was feeling really similar. And it was just quite interesting because what we both found is we're highly sensitive. And it got me thinking, is there something out there that actually shows us or demonstrates that there is a correlation between being highly sensitive and being slightly more negative in our day-to-day lives? And I found an interesting study. So I wanted to share that with you and what it means and what we can do about it. So it was a study done by Reyn, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, in 2023. Now, obviously, with every study that we read or look at, we are only looking at a small amount of people that are taking part in this. And so we have to take that into consideration. So just putting that as a caveat there. But what they found, so what they did is they looked at 239 different people and they asked them to complete a survey. And then they asked them to do daily entries, like daily diaries. And some of the different things that they asked them were from the highly sensitive person scale from Elaine Aron, if you've ever seen the actual Elaine Aron quiz or test. And then some of them were about appraisals and life satisfaction questions, etc. So I'm just going to read through some of those so that you can see. So some of them were, are you easily overwhelmed by strong sensory input, which is from Elaine Aron. How satisfied are you with your life today? Agreeing or disagreeing with statements like today I had high self-esteem, etc. Looking at emotions and looking at how we or they felt about different experiences as to whether they thought it was threatening, easier, etc. And what they found was that there was a correlation between the sensory processing sensitivity, so how we process those senses, how we process the external world and how we take that into ourselves. So what I mean here is if there are loud noises or if there are big things happening or if there is strong smells or anything like that, if there is something in the external world that we are processing, there seems to be a correlation between that and a greater emotional reactivity to negative events. And this is all from, I'll put the link in the show notes because I want to give credit where credit is due. So this is from the Psychology Today. And it just kind of talks through how it doesn't work the other way around. So the sensory processing for highly sensitive people doesn't increase positive experience. It doesn't have an impact on those positive events. And this got me thinking, is this what I've been experiencing for most of my life? And I'm putting it to you as well. Does this resonate with you as well as a highly sensitive person, that actually you've always found yourself kind of defaulting to more of the negative for a lot of different things? And I think hopefully a study like this is quite normalizing and looks at things and thinks, okay, that makes more sense. It doesn't really say it doesn't give an understanding as to why this is the case, but it has made that correlation between sensory processing and negative emotions and feeling lower self-esteem, lowest life satisfaction, if I can speak. And I just thought it'd be a really good starting point to kind of delve into this a little bit deeper. So we can take from this what we deem to be true or what we deem to be important. But some of the things that come up for me are, okay, if there is a correlation between that, first of all, that's really good information to know. As you know, I always like to come at things from a curiosity perspective rather than a judgment perspective. I spent way too long in the judgment perspective when I was growing up. So being in the curiosity one is so much nicer. So looking at this with curiosity and going, okay, that's really interesting that there is a correlation between the two. And obviously we could delve into why that might be the case. But I think the more important thing for us to look at in today's session is to to look at how we can actually shift that from more of a negative bias into a more of a positive experience, and how we can like look at the both. Now, another caveat that I'm going to include here is that I am talking very explicitly about negative and positive today. But again, just wanted to add in here, I truly believe that all emotions are valid. And yes, we can label some of them as negative and some of them as positive, but they are all messages to us telling us something. And so I just wanted to add that in there because I don't want anybody to think that you're not allowed to feel negative or you're not allowed to feel bad about something. So just adding that in there. Their summary that they made at Psychology Today was that highly sensitive people tend to experience more frequent and intense negative emotions and lower well-being than others. And that's kind of where I would like to start. So, has somebody who is incredibly or has been incredibly anxious and negative, I am very keen to look at how we can shift this. And one of the things that I did was I looked into, and it sort of fell into my lap. It wasn't something I went out looking for, but it was all around positive psychology. And it was such an interesting perspective to look at because there's so many different things you can kind of look at within positive psychology. But the overall arching thing about positive psychology is that it's something that you have to be and feel before you start seeing it in your external world. There is a book called The Happiness Advantage, and I'm not going to be able to remember I'll have to put it in the show notes. The name will come to me in a minute. But The Happiness Advantage was one of the books that I originally read. And it was a great introduction into a lot of people want to feel happy. They want to feel that joy. They want to feel positive. And what they do is they wait for something in their external world to show up to help them to feel positive, to help them feel happy. And the studies that he done had shown that it's an internal job, that actually you need to feel it, you need to be it before you start seeing things change in the external world. And that actually as human beings, we have it the wrong way round. And if you think about putting highly sensitive people on top of that and this correlation between negative bias and being highly sensitive, then we've really got our work cut out for us. There is so much information out there. I think I heard, and again, I'm going to have to check this out, but I think I heard that it's something like to get it to a balance, not even to feel positive, but to get it into more of a balance, you need to have 3 positives to every negative. And that's just to get it to a balance. And so how can we kind of delve into this a little bit deeper when we're talking about being highly sensitive? And I really want to kind of just share some of the ideas that I learned when I was doing my positive psychology qualification. So there are lots of different activities that can support you in feeling more positive, in creating that positive experience. And again, we're not doing this to like plaster over something. It is absolutely fine to not be okay. And if that is something that is very prevalent in your life at the moment, then obviously that does need support and that does need looking at and kind of looking at that first. But if it's just a case of, I know so many people who are absolutely fine in their day-to-day lives, but they do have a tendency to always look on the negative side or the bad side of everything, then these kind of activities might help you just to kind of shift things, to help you to see things in a different way. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of that quote that says, isn't it something like insanity is doing the same things over and over again and hoping for a different result? And I think that kind of comes to mind. I'm probably butchering that quote. But that comes to mind as we're doing this, that we do actually need to change or shift some of the things that we're doing in order to see things differently, in order to feel differently. And they don't need to be huge things. I've always argued through my own experience of kind of delving through anxiety and overwhelm and panic attacks, that it was never the big things that made the big difference. It was always the little things, and those little things compounded over time to actually be a completely different person now, where I'm still me, but I just don't think in the same way that I used to. And I think if you can take anything away from today's episode, if you can look at the small things you can do to help shift you into seeing things differently, into feeling more positive about things, that's really going to support your just general outlook on life. So here are some of the activities that can support you to feel more positive, and we're just going to delve right into them. So the first one is helping, volunteering. And there's quite a lot of evidence out there that show that people who volunteer have a lower likelihood of depression, and it can support people to feel better about themselves, to increase their overall well-being. And it's because it promotes this social interaction. And I'm smiling as I'm saying this because I know that I'm highly sensitive and quite an introvert. And I was joking with my husband the other week that I would be, if not encouraged every so often, I could quite easily be a little hermit in a little cottage out in the sticks, not talking to anyone. And I know that I would miss out because, yes, I do love that quietness and just peace and tranquility, but I would miss the social interaction. And I think it's a really important part of being a human being. So when we are less isolated, we do make friends, we do meet other people, meet different people, and that adds meaning to our lives. And so volunteering is a great way to increase that social interaction. It doesn't need to be big. It can just mean, I mean, if you want to look at it as helping rather than volunteering, that might shift something for you to see that in a different way. But it's really just a lovely way to actually shift how you see things and how you see people. And the next one is communication. So interacting and communicating with others is also a fantastic way to improve your mood when you feel down. This is, if you think about how sometimes you just need to get something off your chest. This is why the other week I was talking about the importance of journaling. If you don't have somebody to talk to, talking things through is incredibly supportive and can just help you to process a lot of things that are going on for you. So yes, communication, so important. And again, there was a study called the Grant Study, and in accordance with this study, they found that what matters more than anything else are the meaningful relationships a person has with those people around them. So family, co-workers, friends, community, etc. So having those healthy relationships is a good indicator of how a person feels overall. And so communicating and talking to people and sharing is another way of shifting. Again, it's not a big thing, is it? But shifting our perspective into a more positive light. The next one is going to be no surprise. It is fun, enjoyment, play. I find this one tough. I'm not going to lie. I'm good at resting now. That's been a big one for me over the last few years. Resting and not pushing too much. Understanding my body better and understanding when I need to rest. But actually play has been a tough one. Actually intentionally finding something fun to do has been tough. And play is a wonderful, wonderful way of energizing yourself, of being creative, of supporting your mental health. And so I think just if you're struggling with this, and this is something that I do struggle with, what would my inner child want to do? And my inner child always wants to paint or create something from scratch. I'm thinking of when I was a kid, and you'll have to tell me whether you used to do this. Obviously, I'm an 80s child, so I was born in 1981, and we didn't have computers back then. I think my first computer was when I was about 15, 16. A lot of the time, when I was growing up, I used to get egg boxes and things like that, and I used to make my own typewriter or make my own. I think by the time it was coming to the 90s, obviously there were computers around. We just couldn't afford one. So I used to make myself one out of like cereal boxes and egg boxes and things like that. That is play to me. It is so much fun. And I can see that in my daughter as well. She loves just the amount of boxes that girl has got in her room is just immense. She won't let me throw anything away because she thinks she might be able to use it to stick it somewhere or to create something new. And so I've gone off a complete tangent there, but hopefully you can use that to think about what your inner child wants to do and how you can maybe just give her that or him that opportunity to just go out and play and do something completely different for a bit. And also knowing that it's worthwhile. You're not playing or you're not finding the fun as a tick list. You're doing it because there's an intention behind it, because it's something that's going to support you, like bigger picture here. So next one is exercising. Again, it won't be a big shock to you that exercising is a fantastic one. And I'm going to add a little bit of a caveat here, because obviously with my diagnosis with ME recently, I know that too much exercise is not good for me. And so it's about finding that balance. So exercising, I want you to really take this on board as to what is your kind of best fit with exercise. For me, I know that I love walking. I absolutely adore walking, and walking suits me incredibly well. I don't get poorly from walking. The other thing that I enjoy doing is weight training. Not that you'd be able to tell from my physique, but I do enjoy weight training. And I do go to the gym a couple of times a week now. And again, I've built myself up to that. But that is my kind of balance. That's my happy medium. So what is your happy medium in terms of exercising? You might be higher on the scale and really like to go to those cardio workouts and really give yourself a good sort of push. Others of you might just like me, a bit of a walk or a swim or something that's a little bit more low impact. But exercising is a wonderful way of releasing some of those endorphins, which help reduce anxiety, depression, and also increase your self-confidence and self-esteem. Because when you exercise, you generally do feel a little bit better in your body. And the last one is learning new things. And I remember my dad when I was I think I was in my teens, but I remember him saying, it's, if you don't keep practicing that skill of learning something new, you do lose it, and you do lose your confidence around that, and you do feel like a little bit more trapped in a box. And I've always kind of taken that forward and thought, okay, and I'm always learning something new. I have breaks now because I found that I didn't take any breaks. I was constantly consuming. But I do now take breaks, but I do love learning. And I think it's such a wonderful thing to be able to do. I think for me, as I'm getting older, it shows us that age is just a number. You can learn anything at any age. It's not just for the youth. And so that makes me feel happier. It also means that as we get older, learning is about something we choose to do. Whereas we're a kid, if you've got the traditional schooling, it was very much something you had to do. Whereas as you get older, it's something you choose to do. And so you can choose a topic that really interests you and gets you excited and motivated, enthusiastic about something. And so I think learning is an undervalued one here that actually we can often miss, but it's such an important skill. And so those are my 5 that I'm going to share with you today. I would love to know, again, I've tried to pick 5 that I learned on my training, but also are ones that you can kind of take away and have a think about how you can implement 1 or 2 or all of them in a small step kind of way. So we're not looking at big jumps here. We're just looking at little shifts we can make, little things we can introduce, really kind of supporting us as highly sensitive people to balance it out so that we're not always defaulting to negative quite as much, that we're bringing ourselves back into that middle ground where, every so often we might be really happy about something or feel really positive about something. So it's all about bringing us into that middle ground. So I would love to know which one or how many of them or what you're going to do and how you're going to kind of implement some of these ideas we've discussed today. Please do reach out. And like I said, if you would like to join us for the masterclass, I will put the link in the show notes. It would be wonderful to have you there. I will be back next week with another episode, and I'm sending you so much love. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 15-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.